So, I found a list of the top 10 video game stories of all time, and I thought it was extremely stupid, so I made my own. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
So, I know this is extremely unimportant and stupid, but I saw it and it really upset me. And I was planning on just talking about that, but as I was going through it, I was like, all right, I gotta make my own. And I figured I'll do this in a day. Easy. Super easy. In an hour, I'll sit down, I'll just make my own list. Turns out it was very difficult. So I've been working on this for quite some time. I've actually gone through every single video game that I've played or the stories that I've read, and I'm like, that one was important, this one was important, but this one was better for this or that reason. So this one was very hard for me. But before I get into it, let me just give you a quick reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. Like I mentioned before, this week I'm not live streaming, so you can watch this video if you want to see an image or something, because I tend to put up images to make it a little bit more exciting. You can find that on YouTube at Super Dario World. So let's get into it. And this, by the way, this list, I found it on one of the websites that I use the most because I like it. It has a bunch of information. It's called comingsoon.net. You can find it. It's titled The 10 Best Video Game Stories. So I'm going to go through theirs really quickly before I get into mine, just so that you can see why I disagreed. But anyway, let's start with number 10. They have Assassin's Creed 2. Now, this is a good Assassin's Creed, and it arguably has the best protagonist. For those of you who've never played Assassin's Creed, it has dual storylines. And the first storyline is in the present, the other one is in the past. So you play as a dude named Desmond who gets in a machine called the Animus, where you relive the lives of your ancestors. And so the problem with this franchise has always been that the Animus is stupid, and the storyline, the present day storyline has always been stupid, and the only fun part is the things in the past. So the past storyline is great. It's where you play Ezio, which is probably one of the most likable protagonists, and so his story is pretty interesting. Unfortunately, the other half is crap. So it's one of those things where you're like, all right, it's good, but honestly, it's like it has a huge anchor around its neck. So I would not put it in my top 10. I wouldn't put any Assassin's Creed in my top 10. Just for that, I mean, eventually they get rid of it because they realize, hey, this was a dumb idea. But in general, not a huge fan. Next, number 9, we have Final Fantasy VI. Now, this was a big turning point for the franchise, and it's, you know what? You'll find everybody and their mother willing to debate which one is the best Final Fantasy. I'm honestly, of all the Square Enix games, I'm more prone to the Kingdom Hearts ones. Even though I know I would never put it in the top 10 a Kingdom Hearts game because I know the storyline is batshit crazy. It's bonkers. It makes no fucking sense in any logical way, but it gets to the heart of you. So there's an extreme beauty in the story of that game. However, if we're looking at it as a story as a whole, it has way more plot holes than Swiss cheese. So, Final Fantasy VI, again, going back to Square Enix, debatably one of the best ones, if not the best one. And debatably, it has the best villain. His name is Kafka. He's the clown, if you've ever seen it. The story of this one is the world is debating if it was unethical to get rid of magic. It's a steampunk world, and apparently they've banned magic for thousands of years, and so that's the fight that's coming to its head. I honestly, I've never played this one. I wish I had Eric here to help me out because he's played every single Final Fantasy game. I just know that from what I've read of the story, and not my cup of tea. I'm not just general, not my cup of tea. I way more prefer the story of 15. I thought that was a little bit more exciting, and 7. I'm a 7 guy, so if I have to pick, I would pick between those two. And just honestly, I'm a big Sephiroth guy, which is the villain. I prefer Sephiroth over Kefka any day. Anyway, number 8, we have BioShock Infinite, which is shocking. It's a BioShock. It's a alternate past video game. BioShock Infinite is the third one, if I'm not mistaken. It takes place in 1912, kind of steampunkish as well. And basically, you play as this dude Booker, who goes to the floating city of Columbia to rescue this girl Elizabeth. There's a lot that goes into this franchise, and it's very messed up. And honestly, I thought that the storyline of the first and second one were better compared to this one, but this one has a really fun board game. So if that matters to you at all, I found that was enjoyable. Would I put in the top 10? Definitely no. Definitely not, especially because this one is working off the it relies heavily on the work that's laid before it. And I don't know, I'm just not that big of a fan of BioShock in general, but all right. Next we have Silent Hill 2, specifically Silent Hill 2, and here you play as a dude named James who got a letter from his dead wife, and so you go check it out. I'm not a big horror game guy. I've said this multiple times. The only horror game that I actually loved was Alien Isolation. That one I really got to. I really, really enjoyed that. So I honestly I haven't played this one, but I've heard it's the best of the Silent Hills. But either way, I don't have much to say about it. So next we have number 5. We have Knights of the Old. Oh no, wait, wait, this is wrong. Somebody messed up. Oh no, 6. We have Red Dead Redemption. This is the first one. It's a great story. It's about an outlaw who basically government agents kidnap his wife. Well, they kidnap. Yeah, I'll say kidnap his wife and son, and he's trying to get him back. Also, he's been betrayed by a gang of outlaws. Also, the West is kind of dying. So it's a good storyline. I just personally prefer Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's because I feel it has a better protagonist. Well, not only is everything is better in Red Dead Redemption 2 overall because it's a better gameplay, better technology. It came out later, but the protagonist is the key thing is that I think it has a better protagonist. So comparing one to the other, strictly on story rules, strictly in storyline, I care more about Arthur Morgan than I care about the about Dutch. So wait, no. John Marston. I'm sorry. Dutch is still Red Dead Redemption 2. I care here about way more about Arthur than I care about. Then I was gonna say Dutch again. Then I care about John Marston. So there you go. Next, number 5, we have Knights of the Old Republic. Now, this one is allegedly, well, it's considered to be one of the best RPGs of all time. It's debatable. Honestly, the RPG debate is very much open for debate. But I don't think there's much debate on whether or not this is the best Star Wars video game out there, or at least Knights of the Republic 2. Will probably be the only one that's actually fair competition. There's a lot of fun ones, but as far as RPG goes, I mean, in terms of RPG, this is probably the best one. As shooters, Battlefront was fun, but I'm a Republic Commando guy, which also has a great storyline, by the way. But now, let's stick specifically to Knights of the Republic. Here, basically, you're a crew member who gets who under attack ends up marooned on a planet, and you save a Jedi, and the Jedi makes you his Padawan, and you have adventures across the galaxy. This takes place thousands of years before the events of the prequel movies, so you get to actually explore the Star Wars universe. You see the true power of like the Sith and the Jedi. It's a very interesting point in time, and so it's one of those storylines that when everybody hears that they're going to make a Star Wars movie, everybody wants to see that, like a standalone or a TV show that's in this particular period of time. Everybody wants it because it's, again, a great storyline. It's a super interesting period of time filled with great characters. Anyway, moving on, we have number 4, God of War. This is the newest one that came out. I believe it was put for the PS4. This is basically for the to have to explain who Kratos is. Well, Kratos is a Spartan warrior who kind of got tricked by Ares he gained power. How can I explain this? Ares, the Greek god of war, gave him powers, and those powers ended up making him kill his family, and so he wanted vengeance with all the gods, and he killed all the Greek gods. Well, most of them, at least. And so this story is after that, after the first 3 God of Wars, and here he is in a journey with his son, Atreus, in ancient Norway. So it's instead of dealing with Greek mythology, he's dealing with Norse mythology, and it's honestly pretty interesting. And the interactions with the kid and everything is pretty good. Okay, it is an epic story, and it's weird because it's an epic environment, but the story is it's very intimate because it's a father and son story at heart. So it's a father and son story at heart in a tale of epic proportions. So it's good. All right, you'll see my own rankings when I get to it. Number 3, they put The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now, The Legend of Zelda, I've argued that it's the best video game franchise of all time because it's consistently good. It's consistently been good, title after title. It rarely ever fails. It tends to follow a similar formula, but I don't think they have an actual game that it's a complete and total turd. Maybe one or two in there, but it's a big franchise, and I believe that at least 90% of it is good or great. So, Ocarina of Time is a different story. It kind of messed up the franchise in a way because afterwards it created multiple timelines, and there's a big debate of what each timeline created and which game then goes afterwards. It's kind of a mess, but it's a fun mess. And again, it's a really well-made mess. This is a game where Link can travel in the past. So you start with Kid Link, and then he travels into the future to kind of prevent certain things to happen in the past. But it's hard to explain. Basically, the same storyline as ever, except here you have to travel back and forth from present to the past, from the present to the future, and it's Princess Zelda. And you have to save Princess Zelda, and you're dealing with the Gerudo King, Ganondorf. Again, it's pretty much the same storyline as always. It's a great game. A lot of people argue if this is the best Zelda. Objectively, I can't say so. And as far as storylines go, again, I disagree, but I'll get into that later. By the way, if you're wondering which one I think has the best gameplay, it's Breath of the Wild. Honestly, it's objectively a better game overall than any other Zelda game out there. But anyway, let's move on. Number 2, they had The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The story in The Witcher 3 is epic, but the beauty of The Witcher 3 is that the world actually feels like a very compelling, living, breathing world. It was really well made, again, for its time. And every single side quest that they have is very interesting. There's very few. There's always some, but there's very few throwaway side stories or side quests, and that's the problem because you end up getting really involved into. I want to do absolutely everything, and it's a problem because it takes you forever to finish it. But the main storyline here is you're a Witcher. Basically, Witchers are monster hunters that they're mutated humans they were mutated so that they could hunt monsters, and your protege, Ciri, is being hunted by a group of, let's call them supernatural beings called the Wild Hunt. You have to figure out why. First off, you need to find out where she is, where she's been. You're chasing her down. At the same time, you're chasing one of your several love interests, and you're trying to, at the same time, outsmart or, let's say, prevent the Wild Hunt from catching up with your protege. Honestly, it's a very great storyline, and the beauty of it, it's such a robust game overall. Not only is the main storyline extremely good, extremely interesting, the main characters are very likable, very interesting, except Yennefer, she sucks. But all the side quests and the side characters, they're also very robust. So overall, very solid game. I can understand why it's number 2. It's perfectly understandable. And finally, as their number 1 and coming soon.net, they have The Last of Us. Now, I've argued that The Last of Us is a great game, and overall, for those of you who've never played it, is the story. It's a post-apocalyptic zombie future. So, zombie apocalypse happens, and then it's the group of people trying to survive. Now, you play as the main character, Joel, and he is hired to take this girl, Ellie, to a particular part in the U.S. Now, again, this is post-apocalyptic. This is a few years after the apocalypse happens. And so the beauty of this game is that, well, first off, okay, I guess this is a horror game too, and I like it, but it's the intimacy of the two characters, how a relationship can change you, how you can go from being how can I explain this? Because it's a contrast, because it's an intimate story about two people who are trying to save each other in a very violent, in a living in a world that makes you be very violent and brutal and cold. So I love it. I again, it's a landmark, and to me, it's a landmark in video game stories. I believe it was a game. Honestly, it was a game changer for me because for a while I was like, maybe I'm kind of like over my video game phase. And then a buddy invited me over to his house because he just have a few beers and play a video game. And he was like, all right, we'll just pass over the control every single time you die. We were hooked. We were hooked. We ended up passing like over half the game because we couldn't stop. It was so good. Very compelling. It gets to the heart of you. Both characters very likable. And again, the beauty of the game is the interactions between the characters. So, okay, I can understand them putting it as number one. However, my list looks very different. So, let's go through my rankings of the top 10 video games of all time. I'll just make sure there are no spoilers here. All right. So, my number 10, again, it's going to look very different, but my number 10 is Halo Combat Evolved. Now, I know what you're thinking, Dario, what the fuck? Why would you put that number 10? Honestly, think back, the story of the first Halo is really good. Now, my favorite Halo video game is Halo Reach. But Halo Reach really would not have existed without this one. And this one, go back. And remember the very first time you played it. You're a super soldier and you're being attacked by aliens. You don't really know why. You know that you're being pursued. Your crew is barely trying to survive. You're trying to gather as many survivors as you can. You're stranded in this weird ring-like environment that you don't know. It's a mystery. All of a sudden, zombies come out of nowhere. Then, as you start figuring out what this thing was created for, what was its intentions, and it's a very compelling story. It's very interesting. It really gets you in there. And so, again, and the odds are always against you. Always. So, that's why it's number 10. Again, another game changer. Another game changer for video game history. Like, this game is the reason why I bought the Xbox back in the day. So, again, game changer. Next, number 9, we have, also, again, it created one of the most iconic video game characters of all time, Master Chief, John 117. And so, number 9, we're moving on to, and this might be controversial. And by the way, let me just clarify, before you get mad at me, there's a lot of big titles that are not here. Like, I already said it, there's no Kingdom Hearts, and there's some, I need to clarify why they're not here. So, some fighting video games have excellent storylines. Like, Mortal Kombat has an amazing storyline. However, it's not a story-driven game, and that's why I kind of put it to the side. But do yourself a favor, read the Mortal Kombat storyline. It's great. As far as fighting video games go, I think I prefer the Soul Calibur story. It's a little bit wilder. Or Injustice: Gods Among Us. No, do yourself a favor. Every once in a while, I have people reach out to me because they want to talk at Dario the Show on Instagram or at Super Dario World. They reach out to me and they ask me, hey, which comic do you recommend or what movie or whatever? If they haven't read it, I always recommend the Injustice storyline. This is a DC comic. So, Injustice is a video game created by the dudes who made Mortal Kombat, but using DC characters. It's great. I always recommend year one, and it's basically an alternate reality where Superman's evil. Superman became evil because the Joker, let's just say, destroyed Metropolis, and so he kind of loses it, and shenanigans happen. Anyway, the video game starts when Lex Luthor from that universe goes to the good universe and he asks the Justice League for help to save his universe. Again, there's a bunch of multiple universes. However, the comic book tells you the storyline of what happens from the moment that Superman loses it and how he becomes, like the authoritarian leader of that world and the resistance created by Batman, all that stuff. It's a great storyline. Highly, highly recommend it if you haven't read it. Anyway, but that's not in this list because, again, it's not a story-driven game. It's a fighting game. It's very different, but it's a great storyline. I highly recommend it. There's also no Final Fantasies here. Sorry. There's no StarCraft. StarCraft is a fantastic story, particularly StarCraft 2, even though I guess all 3 games are separate, but no. StarCraft 2 overall, I'm putting Legacy of the Void together with everything else. So, great storyline. Fantastic villain. The issue is that, again, it's not really a story-driven game. So, it's really hard to have a strategy game that's story-driven. So, that's why I keep it out of there. There's no Prince of Persia. I love Prince of Persia, but it's not in there because the best game doesn't have the best story. Unfortunately, there's no Elder Scrolls, so there you go. Don't get mad at me. Fair warning. And so, all right, I already told you my number 10, Halo Combat Evolved. Let's move on to number 9, and this one is probably unexpected, but I got Pokemon Gold Silver. Now I know what you're thinking. The fuck is this? Pokemon Gold Silver. What do you mean? Now, let's be honest here. Every single Pokemon game basically follows the same formula. So we need to figure out, not in terms of gameplay, in terms of story, which one has the best story. So the original Red, Blue, and all that stuff, it's pretty much the story of Ash. Like, there's really no surprises there. You're following the story of Ash from the TV show. Heart Gold, Gold and Silver, on the other hand, it's completely new. You're in a new region. You're not exactly sure who you are. It's a character you've never heard of before. And as you're exploring things, then it has the legends of the birds of Ho-Ho and Lugia. It has the legends of all of the three dogs and how they came from Eevees that died in a fire. So there's tidbits there. But to me, the thing that's the best of it is that the culmination is the big battle that you have with Red. So Red is 100 billion times better than Ash. Ash sucks. If you ever have a chance, read the manga, the Pokemon manga, where you follow the story of Red. Red is a badass. Ash sucks balls. Anyway, or watch what is it, Pokemon Legends? They made like a few shorts with Red's story. Red is awesome. Anyway, so and it culminates with that battle, and it's kind of a build up to the battle with Red. So you're taking down the massive, epically powerful character that you kind of created in the first one, in a way. So that's why it's there. That's why it's number 9. I think it's great. Overall, it's a story. Like I said, it may be the same formula over and over, but if they keep doing it, it's because it's successful. It's because we like it for a reason. And this one has enough of a twist that it's still that makes it special and great. And like I said, that's a little bit of tidbit. So that's why I put it there. Next, we have at number 8. We have Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. And let's see, Metal Gear Solid, how do I explain the franchise? Kind of hard. Well, basically, you're kind of a clone super soldier spy. Well, in Metal Gear Solid 3, you are the original soldier. You're not the clone. And this is kind of one of the storylines that brings him, makes him become like the legend, the big boss. You play the big boss. Anyway, so in this particular, here you're Naked Snake. But anyway, that's his code name, Naked Snake. Anyway, so in this particular storyline, the beauty of it is, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in it, but it's the villain. And you'll notice a pattern with me. I'm very much a villain-oriented guy. Like, to me, I believe that a villain makes a good video game, because the higher you put a villain, that means that the higher that your main character, that he has to get even higher than that. So if this is the bar, you have to create a character that is capable of jumping it. So the boss, first off, the game, I can't do any spoilers. I won't do any spoilers. But there's enough twists in the story. It's very compelling by the end. You're not exactly sure how you feel about stuff. It's very emotional. But the villain, the boss, is great. And just because of that, she's probably my favorite villain in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. So probably just because of that is why I put it above all the other Metal Gear ones. Next, for number 7, I put Knights of the Old Republic. I already explained this one, so I'm not really going to get into it that much. Basically, probably the best Star Wars story out there. Expanded universe out there. At least RPG out there, for sure. Next, we have number 6, and this one might be controversial. And I'm aware of it. But I don't care. Because I'm trying to be objective here. And objectively, I believe that this is the better story. And I have The Legend of Zelda, The Twilight Princess. And I know what you're thinking. Dario, you're dumbass. Dario, you're crazy. Hear me out. First off, I might be. I don't care. But first off, you have the best companion, who's Midna. It's probably among the more different. It's the darkest of all the Legend of Zelda. So I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. And as I mentioned before, Legend of Zelda has kind of its own formula. This one, I believe it's a little bit different. I mean, it's not as different as, let's just say, Majora's Mask, but this one follows the formula, but it's on the darker side of the formula. The world is extremely, extremely different. I remember, you always know who the villain is. You always know who the villain's going to be, but the big reveal for Ganon in this particular game was fantastic. The buildup of it, the corruption of your character, the interaction that you have with Midna. It overall, I think that it's again, it's just because it's the darker ones, and I have a preference for darker stories. But to me, it's just it made it more real in a way. So that's why I picked it. I don't know. Listen, any Legend of Zelda that I would have picked is a great story because overall, it's like I said, it's already a great formula. But this one in particular got to me. It's maybe it's because I like wolves. I like wolves, and it's probably the only one that makes sense that why Link doesn't talk. Well, actually, a lot of things make more sense because Link starts as an adult. His background makes a little bit more sense. He's not just the boy that grew up with with a bunch of what are they called? They're not imps. I forget the name of the forest people. Whatever. And so I enjoyed it. You're dealing with alternate dimensions, darker beings. I just think it's better overall. The consequences are probably bigger. Anyway, moving on. That's probably my most controversial pick. Probably. I think. We'll see. Anyway, number 5, we have Red Dead Redemption 2. And I think I already explained this one. Western, I like Westerns. And Red Dead Redemption 1 was very good, but Red Dead Redemption 2, I think it's better simply because the protagonist is better. Well, objectively, overall, it's a better game, but if we're talking protagonist, I think he's better. I think Arthur is way more likable. And where the first game is more guided by vengeance, the main character is more guided by vengeance. This one, Arthur, he's guided by something different. He's actually trying to save not just himself, but his crew. And you have to deal with the slow realization that maybe your friends are kind of losing it. And so it's overall a more heartbreaking story in a way, even though I guess you could say that the stakes are a little bit lower because, I mean, kidnapping your wife and child, stakes are pretty high. Arthur does not have to deal with that issue, but his story in a way is more tragic. It's weird. I won't spoil anything for you, but like I said, I like the guy more. He's way nicer, and John Marston is kind of a nagging bitch. But anyway, I still like him. I'll get fun game. But compared to one of the other, one's really a nagging bitch. Anyway, moving on. Number 4, we have The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I believe I already explained this one. Complete and robust world. Very great, compelling side stories. Great characters. Overall, great storyline. Great villains. Great monsters. Living, breathing world. World looks like it's a living, breathing world. So I don't think I have to get deeper into that one. Number 3, we have Mass Effect. Now, Mass Effect, it was another game changer. It's another landmark. It was a landmark of interactive storytelling. That's probably the best description I've ever heard of it. And so here, it's a video game where, well, it started, I believe, I'm not sure if this one came first or if Fable came first, but it's one of those video games where every decision you make kind of affects how the story progresses. And the decision you made in the first game can affect you in the second game, can affect you in the third game. Like, let's say you killed a character in the first game, you made the choice to kill a character, but he in the second one he could have helped you, but now they kind of hate you because you killed that character, and in the third one, so one game affects the other. So overall, they're interconnected. But the best game in this franchise is the second one. It's the best made one, right? It has the best gameplay. However, I'm picking this one for the storyline. Why? Because of the villain. Saren is the best villain. Now, what's this game about, by the way? It's the future. Imagine humanity discovered there's a way to basically have fast travel in the universe, and it's called Mass Effect. You go through these giant machines, and they shoot you to, like, very super fast to another one of these machines, so to a receiver, and nobody really knows who created it or why, but creatures in the universe use it. Anyway, humanity has reached the point where they can travel across the universe that way, and they get invited to be a part of this, like, council, of this part of this family. No, what would be the best way to describe it? Like, imagine, like Star Wars, the Republic, but they're not exactly a republic. It's more like a place where they meet and they talk and they have diplomacy and all that stuff. There's a very good comparison for it, but I'm blanking on it right now. Anyway, so humanity has newly been involved. It newly started being a part of it. This this family of different alien species, and you play as the first human ever invited to be a Spectre. Now, Spectres are what is it? Spectre Special Reconnaissance and Special Tactics and Reconnaissance Team. I think that's what it is. Special Tactics and Reconnaissance. Anyway, so they're supposed to be the most elite of the elite soldiers in the galaxy, and they pretty much have carte blanche to do whatever they want. And so you are the first human invited to be a part of it. However, in your very first mission, you are kind of chasing down another Spectre called Saren, who you suspect is working for basically Cylons. So there's an AI civilization called the Geth. Basically, imagine Terminators in space. And for some reason, this Spectre is working with the Geth, and he's attacking humans because in the universe, a lot of species don't like humans. Shocker. Anyway, so so you play this guy, and the beauty of this game is the villain. And I don't just mean Saren. I mean, there's a point in this video game where you realize the scopes and the true villains and everything that's gonna move on this franchise, and it's fucking terrifying. They have probably the most terrifying villain in, and by the way, they fuck it up at the end because they made too good a villain, but they have probably the most terrifying villain in video game history. Like, I remember playing that game, going through the story, being super in it, caring about every decision, caring about, like the relationships that you're building. And then you reach that point of the story where you see what the hell you're facing, and you're like, oh my God, I'm fucked. So, great story. Honestly, and again, all because of the villains, it's up there. So, that's number 3. Let's move on to number 2. And here we have The Last of Us. So, as I already said before, the beauty of this game is like the intimate relationship between the characters. They really make you care about both of the characters. You really want them to survive. And not just survive, be happy. They are living in a miserable, miserable world. This world has broken them, making them miserable. And however, kind of finding solace in each other, they can actually find a way to kind of survive. It's a very tragic story. But the beauty of it is kind of how they find hope in each other and they find salvation in each other. It's great. I mean, if you're a parent, you're like, oh my God, like this is kind of like a great father surrogate daughter relationship. It's a beautiful story. It's dark. It's tragic. It doesn't pull any punches. It's great. I highly, highly recommend this game. And I don't want to get into spoiler territory, so I'll just leave it at that. So let's move on to number 1. This might be unexpected, because it's not like the craziest story out there. And that's because there is beauty in simplicity. And so for my number 1 of the best video game story of all time, I have Shadow of the Colossus. Now, I know you're thinking, that's crazy, Dario. What do you mean? No, it's not crazy. Like I said, there's beauty in simplicity. And this is a very, very simple video game. Like, there's not... What is it, 12? Let me just see. 12. How many? Maybe 17 colossi. In Shadow of the Colossus. How many are out there? There are... Let me just see this real quick. There are 16. Damn it. I was right there. I was out there. All right. I was very close. All right. So this is a video game that has only 16 villains. So, and that's it. And they're all colossi. And so basically, the gameplay is relatively simple. You have to find a colossi and you have to discover a way to kill it. And it's kind of like a puzzle that's gigantic and trying to kill you at the same time. And the story of the game is this dude, his girlfriend gets sacrificed. And so he travels to a forbidden land to try to bring her back to life. And a god has been sealed in said land, and he says, well, if you release me from here, I will bring your girlfriend back to life. However, in order to release me, you have to defeat these 16 gigantic monsters. That's the game. And so, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, tragic, dark, beautiful. It's like I said, it's beautiful in its simplicity, and the best part of it is you can see how one good thing can really corrupt a person. because slowly and surely the main character starts losing himself, and he's doing it all because of love. It's very tragic in a lot of ways. Your companion is great, by the way. So great game, very simple, very straightforward. I mean, if you put yourself into it, you could probably finish it in a day. I don't think so. I think it takes you a few more, but great. And also, there's a remaster for the PS4 if you want to play it. Overall, fantastic. This is a true masterpiece. This game is a true masterpiece in every sense. The soundtrack is phenomenal. The gameplay is phenomenal. The art is phenomenal. The story is phenomenal. I don't think there's a single thing that I would change from this game. It's a masterpiece through and through, and that's why it's my number 1. So there you go. I'll just give you a quick recap. So number 10, I had Halo Combat Evolved. Number 9, I had Pokemon Gold Silver. Number 8, I had Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Number 7, I had Star Wars Knight of the Old Republic. Number 6, I had The Legend of Zelda, The Twilight Princess. Number 5, I had Red Dead Redemption 2. Number 4, I had The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. Number 4, I'm sorry. Number 5, I had Red Dead Redemption 2. Number 4, I had The Witcher. Oh, it's because I said The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. That kind of threw me off. Number 3, there you go. We have Mass Effect, the first one. Number 2, we have The Last of Us. And number 1, Shadow of the Colossus. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully it was fun. Hopefully, I didn't make you like pull your hairs out and be like, oh, Dario, you're such an idiot. How can you forget this one? How can you forget another? There's too many fucking video games. Honestly, there's too many fucking video games. And that's not a bad thing, I guess. But it's really hard to pick. Honestly, it's really hard to pick one. So that's it for today. Well, or at least pick 10. Really, really hard. And then as I was going through a list, of ones or the ones that I own, I was going through my list or like my binder there. I was like, oh shit, what about this one? That. It was a hard choice. But I'm sticking to my guns, at least for now. So as always, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram, at Super Dario World. Not live streaming this week, all pre-recorded. So you can find these videos on YouTube at Super Dario World. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll see you again next time.